The silent Symphony of the Dyatlov Pass, Russia's most chilling mountain mystery. 9 experienced hikers fled their tent in 30-degree weather, tearing through the fabric from the inside. When searchers found their bodies weeks later, the clues made no sense. A tongue ripped out by the roots, eyes missing, clothes radioactive. One victim's skull crushed by force equal to a car crash, yet no external wounds. The official report blamed an unknown compelling force. Recently declassified KGB files mention orange spheres seen in the sky that night. But the mountain keeps its secrets. Even now, their camera, with its final undeveloped photo, lies locked in a Russian vault. Prologue. For years, the Dyatlov Pass incident has haunted me like a ghost I can't shake. 9 experienced hikers lost to the unforgiving Ural Mountains in 1959, their deaths shrouded in baffling contradictions and chilling silence. The official reports blamed an unknown compelling force, but the truth, if there ever was one, has been buried beneath layers of secrecy, fear, and time. It began with a letter. No return address, just a single photograph tucked inside, a grainy image of glowing orange spheres hovering over the snow-covered peaks. The sender claimed to be a retired KGB agent, someone who had seen things no one else was meant to see. The letter ended with a warning. Some symphonies are meant to remain silent. I've spent the last decade chasing that silence, piecing together fragments from declassified files, eyewitness accounts, and the whispers of locals who still fear the mountain. Every lead pulls me deeper into a labyrinth of shadows, where science clashes with the supernatural, and where the mountain itself seems to watch, waiting. This is my story. The story of the silent symphony that played out on the coldest night of the Soviet era. A mystery that refuses to die, and a warning that some secrets are better left frozen in time. If you're ready to listen, then follow me into the heart of the Ural wilderness. But be warned, once you hear the symphony, it never truly ends. The call to the Urals. The plane touched down in Sverdlovsk under a sky the color of wet concrete. February in the Urals smelled like diesel fuel and pine needles sharp with frost, a scent that clung to the back of my throat like a warning. I'd come armed with notebooks, a satellite phone, and the coordinates of the Dyatlov group's last campsite. But the real weapon? A name scribbled on the back of that KGB photograph. Ask for Yuri at the Hotel Poljus. He knows about the spheres. The hotel was a Soviet-era monolith with flickering neon and a lobby that reeked of boiled cabbage. Yuri turned out to be the night clerk, a gaunt man with nicotine-stained fingers who didn't blink enough. "You're the American," he said, sliding a key across the counter. "Room 219. Don't use the phone after midnight." The room's wallpaper peeled like dead skin. On the bed lay a parcel wrapped in oilcloth. Inside, a journal with entries from Igor Dyatlov himself, dated 3 days before the incident. The last page stopped mid-sentence. The compasses are spinning. Zina insists she hears singing from Kholat Shakol, but there's no wind, Tony. A knock at the door. Yuri's voice through the wood. They say the mountain takes souvenirs. Eyes first, then voices. Leave before it notices you. Outside my window, the first snowflakes of a gathering storm began to fall. Somewhere beyond them, the pass waited. The torn tent. The jeep ride to the base of Kholat Shakol took 6 hours through roads that weren't T roads at all, just frozen rivers of mud and shattered pine branches. My driver, a grizzled veteran of the Soviet Army named Anatoly, chain-smoked unfiltered cigarettes and spoke only in grunts until we passed a crumbling concrete marker. "See that? Radiation check post. They built 5 after he 59, then abandoned them all by 61. He flicked his cigarette into the snow, like the soldiers saw something even Moscow couldn't silence. We stopped at the edge of the tree line. The mountain rose before us, its slopes unnaturally smooth under the snow, like the skin of something that had shed its old self. Anatoly refused to go further. Last time I came here, my watch stopped for 3 days. Not the battery, the gears. Like time itself didn't want to move forward. He handed me a flare gun. If you see lights that aren't yours, shoot straight up. I'll pretend I didn't see it. The ascent, the cold, was a living thing. It gnawed through my thermal layers within minutes, turning my breath into clouds of glass. Halfway up, I found the first marker, a rusted pole with a tattered orange flag, the Dyatlov group's last trail sign. Then the trees stopped. No gradual thinning. Just a perfect line where the pines ended and the slope became a vast, open wound of snow. The silence here wasn't natural. No wind, no creak of branches, just the crunch of my boots and the too loud hammering of my heart. The campsite. I almost missed the tent site. The blizzard had buried most traces, but a single shard of fabric fluttered from a rock, bright orange, bleached pale by decades of sun. Then I saw the cuts, not from wind or animals. Precise, deliberate slashes forming a star pattern in the snow where the tent had stood. Kneeling, I brushed away the ice and found something metallic. A broken lens from a camera, its glass warped as if exposed to tremendous heat. My radio crackled. Static at first, then a voice that couldn't exist. "Don't look up." A woman's voice, speaking in 1950s Russian. I spun, scanning the slope. Nothing but snow and gathering dark. Then, a shadow moved where no shadow should be. Tall, thin. Its outline flickered like a film reel skipping frames. For a heartbeat, I saw details. Elongated fingers, a head too small for its body. Something glinting where its eyes should be. Then the flare gun was in my hand, its report splitting the silence. The thing was gone when the light faded. But in the snow where it had stood, 9 perfect circles of melted ice steamed in the cold. The journal entry, that night, February 2nd, 2024, Base Camp. The tent cuts match declassified KGB photos exactly. But the fabric? Still strong. No 65-year-old nylon survives like this. Radiation reading spiked at 1903, 3.6 VHDH. Then my Geiger counter died. Anatoly won't meet my eyes. Says he didn't hear any flare. I keep hearing clicks, like a camera shutter. But mine's in my bag. The bodies. The morgue in Yekaterinburg smelled of formaldehyde and something older. A sweetness clinging to the tiles that made my teeth ache. Dr. Petrov, the last living pathologist from the original 1959 autopsy team, had agreed to meet me in secret. He was 89 now, his hands trembling as he unspooled a microfilm across the light box. "They made us sign papers," he whispered, "but I kept this." The images burned into my retinas. Lyudmila Dubinina's missing tongue not torn out. Dissolved. The tissue edges were smooth, glassy, like wax held to a flame. Petrov's note, "Oral cavity shows crystalline residue. Melts at 36.7 to your human body temp." The crushed skull, Rustem Slobodin. No external bruising. The fractures radiated outward from the center of his brain, as if something expanded inside, Petrov muttered. The radioactive clothing. A single wool sock registered 450 milliröntgen, enough to kill in weeks. Only the inner layers were contaminated, Petrov said, like they'd been washed in it. Then came the worst photo. A close-up of Igor Dyatlov's left palm. Carved into the skin was a symbol. The astronomical sign for crew position of a planet. The cuts were cauterized, the flesh around it blistered with frostbite. "We didn't put that in the report," Petrov said, his pupils dilated as the overhead lights flickered. "Because it wasn't there during the first autopsy." The experiment back at my hotel, I recreated the conditions. Hypothesis. The symbol appears under extreme cold. Method. Pressed a coin engraved with against my forearm, then held it against the window, 29 degrees C. Result. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the metal bonded to my skin. No pain, no blood. Just a hiss of steam as the symbol seared itself into flesh. The coin then liquefied, leaving a mercury-like substance that evaporated within seconds. The phone call, an unknown number, rang at dawn. The voice spoke in a 1950s dialect. "You found the invitation. Come to the circle when the aurora bleeds." When I played the recording back, the waveform showed two voices. One human, one something else, perfectly layered. Key discoveries. The symbol's meaning appears in 12th century Mansi petroglyphs warning of sky burials. Classified Soviet files on atmospheric plasma. The radiation matches signatures from 1958 nuclear tests, but with an extra isotope, promethium-147, only used in space probes. The timeline. All injuries occurred after death. The bodies kept changing in the morgue. The survivors' stories. The train to St. Petersburg rattled through the Urals like a dying animal, its windows frosted with the ghosts of breath from passengers long since gone. I was chasing a ghost of my own, Yuri Yudin, the only member of the Dyatlov group who survived. Officially, he'd turned back due to joint pain. The truth, I suspected, was far stranger. Yudin's widow, a sharp-eyed woman named Galina, met me at the door of their Soviet-era apartment with a cigarette dangling from her lips. The walls were papered with yellowed maps and schematics of the pass. "He drew those in his sleep," she said, pouring tea that smelled of pine resin. "After they found him." The tape. She produced a cassette labeled Why? Why? Final Statement, 1993. The recording hissed to life. Yudin's voice, hoarse, whispering. "They think I left because of my leg. Lies. Igor ordered me to go. Said the mountain was singing to him in a dream. Not music, numbers, coordinates, 61 to 45, 17, N, 59 to 25, 43, E." A pause. Then, a sound like radio static resolving into a voice, but no human throat could produce those harmonics. It spoke in reverse Russian, the words peeling backward like tape rewinding. T. Sledeshi. "You are next." Galina's hand clamped over mine. After this, he carved that symbol into every doorframe, the same one you found on Igor's hand. The second survivor. But Yudin wasn't the only one who'd escaped. Buried in KGB archives was a 1961 memo about a Subject K9, a shepherd named Mikhail Sharavin who led the first search party. Sharavin had quit the next day, raving about metal spiders in the snow. Tracking down his grandson in a Vladivostok fishing village, I learned the rest. Sharavin's boots had melted at the soles, though the snow was 30 degrees. He'd refused to enter the tent, screaming, "Can't you hear them? They're still screaming." In 1978, he vanished from a locked psychiatric ward. The walls were scratched with symbols. From the outside, the notebook Galina handed me Yudin's journal. On the last page, a sketch of the circle of stones with 9 figures around it. The 10th, Yudin himself, stood apart, his body dissolving into strings of binary code. Scrawled beneath, "The mountain isn't a place, it's a receiver, and we were the signal." Key revelations. The coordinates point to an abandoned Soviet facility near the pass. Object U3, a Cold War acoustic radar station. The binary in Yudin's sketch translates to a single word, Zapros, query. The voice on the tape matches the singing Zina heard before the incident. The KGB files object U3 was a ghost town, a cluster of crumbling concrete bunkers swallowed by snowdrifts 50 kilometers south of the Dyatlov Pass. The barbed wire fence had rusted away, leaving only the wind whistling through empty guard towers. I'd bribed a local demolition expert to blast open the main bunker's vault. Inside, a 1957 schematic labeled Acoustic Resonance Chamber, Project Symphony, showed a network of underground tunnels leading toward Kholat Syakhl, each lined with quartz crystals. A logbook entries detailed attempts to amplify atmospheric anomalies using low-frequency sound waves. The final entry, Jan 27, 1959, read, "Signal acquisition successful. The spheres respond to harmonic input. Dyatlov group en route." The most disturbing find. A reel-to-reel tape labeled Symphony, subject D9, Dyatlov. The recording began with static, then Igor's voice reciting numbers, the same coordinates Udine had heard in his dream. As the numbers intensified, the tape picked up a chorus of voices harmonizing in that impossible language. The last sound was a scream that dissolved into pure code. The experiment. Back at my hotel, I analyzed the code. It wasn't binary. It was a base 9 system, each digit corresponding to a note on a musical scale. When I played the sequence on a synthesizer, the room vibrated. The lights flickered, and a voice whispered in my ear, "Welcome to the symphony." The warning. That night I woke to find my laptop screen filled with Cyrillic text, "Vi slishkom blisko, ostanavites, ili oni najdut vas." You are too close. Stop, or they will find you. The message deleted itself as I watched. Key revelations. Project Symphony was an attempt to weaponize the orange spheres by using human subjects as conduits. The coordinates weren't just a location, they were a musical key to unlock something in the atmosphere. The code is a language that bypasses human consciousness, speaking directly to the subconscious. The camera's secret. The vault of the Yekaterinburg History Museum smelled of mothballs and ozone. The curator, a nervous woman with ink-stained fingers, led me to a lead-lined box marked Dyatlov Evidence 9. Do not expose to light. Inside lay the final roll of film from Igor Dyatlov's camera, still sealed in its original canister. The development process. I bribed a retired KGB lab technician to develop it in a makeshift darkroom. As the image emerged in the chemical bath, his hands began to shake. First frame. The hikers around a campfire, their faces blurred as if vibrating at incredible speed. Second frame. The infamous orange spheres, not floating but connected by tendrils of light to the hikers' chests. Final frame. A close-up of Zenaida Kolmogoreva's eyes, reflected in her pupils, a humanoid figure made of shifting geometric shapes reaching toward the camera. The technician gasped. "The emulsion! It's moving!" The film's surface rippled like liquid mercury. Where it touched the technician's skin, his veins turned black for 3 seconds before fading. The coding analysis. Back at my hotel, I scraped a sample into a Petri dish. Under UV light, the substance pulsed rhythmically, matching the symphony audio frequencies. When exposed to human blood, it formed dendritic patterns identical to the symbol. Most chilling? It reacted to voices. My whispered, "What are you?" caused it to contract into a perfect sphere. A knock at the door interrupted the experiment. The Petri dish was gone when I returned. In its place, a single frame from the film, showing the geometric figure now standing behind the hikers. Scrawled in the corner in fresh ink, "You're developing nicely." The missing frame. The museum curator called at dawn. The film canister was empty when we checked this morning, but we found this. Attached was a 2024 photo of the Dyatlov Memorial plaque. In the background, barely visible, a tall, thin figure watching from the trees. Its head was slightly too large. Its fingers were jointed wrong. Key revelations: the film was alive. The metallic coating is a symbiotic organism that records memories in quantum states. The figure appears in every photo taken near the pass since 1959, always slightly more defined. The message: the substance is curating what evidence survives. The circle of stones. The GPS died 3 kilometers from the coordinates. My compass spun wildly as I approached the infamous circle. 9 basalt monoliths arranged with unnatural precision on the mountainside. The snow here fell upward in places, defying gravity in lazy spirals. I set up the equipment, infrared camera, showed heat signatures inside the stones, impossible for solid rock. EMF detector, spiked at 17 Hz, the frequency known to induce visions in humans. Audio recorder, caught whispers in a language that made my teeth vibrate. Then the stones began to sing. The experiment. At exactly 3:17 a.m., I played the Symphony code through a portable speaker. The reaction was instantaneous. The snow melted in perfect concentric circles. The recorder captured a new voice, Zena's, gasping, "Igor, the stars are wrong here." My own shadow stretched and split into 9 silhouettes, each moving independently. Then came the pull. An invisible force dragged me toward the central stone. Its surface was warm, vibrating with the same rhythm as the film's metallic coating. When I touched it, my vision exploded with images. A Soviet lab where technicians in lead suits fed the substance to prisoners. The Dyatlov group kneeling in this same circle, their mouths sewn shut with light. A towering figure of shifting geometry reaching through what looked like a tear in the sky. I woke hours later, my lips crusted with frozen blood. The recorder had captured 17 minutes of my own voice speaking in reverse. "You, the wound." A new mark had appeared on my chest, a perfect burned into the skin. It didn't hurt, it hummed. Back at camp, reviewing the footage, I made a horrifying discovery. In every frame where my back was turned, something stood just out of focus. Its proportions matched the figure from the photos. By dawn, it had moved closer in each shot. The warning, a text from an unknown number. "They're using you to finish the transmission. Don't let them see you know." Attached was a 1959 KGB file photo of Igor Dyatlov's corpse. Someone had drawn a red arrow pointing to his left eye. The pupil wasn't round. It was a key revelations. The circle is a gateway. The stones amplify the symphony signal, allowing the figure to manifest. The mark is a receiver. My burn channels the same energy that killed the hikers. The cover-up continues. Someone is still monitoring the site, and they know I'm close. The government's lie. The archive in Perm reeked of rotting paper and betrayal. I would paid a hacker collective $20,000 to breach the Ministry of Defense as Symphony files. What they delivered wasn't just classified, it was heresy. Document 1, Protocol 09W, 1958. Detailed how Soviet scientists had weaponized the Mansi legend of Kholat Shackle, Dead Mountain. The orange spheres were codenamed resonators, self-assembling plasma entities that fed on human fear frequencies. A handwritten note, Test Group D9, Dyatlov, shows perfect harmonic alignment. Proceed with field trial. Document 2. Autopsy addendum proved Lyudmila Dubinina's tongue had been removed post-mortem with a laser scalpel. The crushed skull showed microscopic drill marks. Someone had extracted brain tissue. Most damning, Rustam Slobodin's watch was found inside his stomach. The hands were moving backward. Document 3. The tape transcript. A 1960 recording of KGB Colonel Petrov admitting, "We didn't lose control of the experiment. The mountain took it from us." The survivor's secret. Yuri Yudin's widow finally broke her silence. In a shaky video call, she revealed, Yudin hadn't abandoned the hike. He'd been ordered to leave as the control subject. For years afterward, men in black uniforms delivered vials of a metallic liquid to their apartment. "Yuri drank it like medicine," she whispered, his final words before vanishing in 1993. "Tell them the symphony needs a new conductor." The blood test. Back in Yekaterinburg, a rogue pathologist analyzed my branded skin. "Your white blood cells are rewriting themselves," she said, pointing to the microscope. "See these structures? They're identical to the film's metallic residue. It's merging with you." A notification buzzed on my phone. A photo from an unknown sender. It showed me sleeping in my hotel room last night. Standing over the bed. A figure with too many joints, its finger extended toward my forehead. The timestamp read 03:17 a.m. The caption, "Preparation complete." Key revelations: the experiment never ended. The Soviets weren't studying the phenomenon. They were feeding it. The figure is a hybrid, part resonator, part human consciousness, likely the assimilated minds of past victims. Yuhiri, the new subject. The mark, isn't he just a receiver? It has a countdown. The final night. The aurora bled across the sky like a wound. Not the shimmering green curtains I'd seen before. This was crimson, pulsing with a low-frequency hum that made my teeth ache. The air tasted like ozone and iron. I knew I had to return to the circle. The text messages, the visions, the changes in my blood, they were all converging on this night. The Jeep wouldn't start. The satellite phone was dead. I walked. The snow glowed with an unnatural luminescence, casting long, distorted shadows that mimicked my movements. The wind carried whispers in a language I understood without hearing. "Come home, conductor." The symphony. The stones pulsed with light. As I approached, the air shimmered, resolving into images. Igor Dyatlov smiling at the camera, his eyes reflecting the aurora. Zenaida Kolmogorova sketching the circle of stones in her journal. Rustem Slobodin strumming a guitar, singing a Soviet folk song. Then the images fractured. The hikers' faces contorted in silent screams. Their bodies twisted into impossible angles. The music warped into a cacophony of static and pain. A voice cut through the chaos. Lyudmila Dubinina's, clear as a bell. "We volunteered. For science. For the future. For them." The stones began to vibrate, emitting a beam of crimson light that struck me in the chest. My vision exploded with memories that weren't mine. The hikers injecting themselves with a metallic fluid. The scientists promising them immortality in the symphony. The realization that they were becoming part of the mountain. The figure. It stood at the center of the circle, its form shifting between human and geometric. The face was a composite of the hiker's features, its eyes glowing with the same crimson light. It spoke in my voice. "You're the final note. Name. The one that completes the song." It extended a hand. On its palm, a perfect. The choice. The figure offered me a vial of the metallic liquid. Drink. Become part of the symphony. Live forever. The voices of the hikers swirled around me, pleading, promising, threatening. I knew what would happen if I drank it. I'd become another echo in the mountain song, my consciousness absorbed into the collective. But I also knew what would happen if I refused. The figure's hand tightened. The crimson light intensified. The voices grew louder, more insistent. The mountain was waiting. Key revelations. The hikers were zealots. They willingly sacrificed themselves for a twisted vision of scientific progress. The figure is a collective, a gestalt entity composed of the hikers' assimilated minds. You breathe the catalyst. Your knowledge of the truth makes you the perfect conductor to amplify the symphony. The unseen. Witness. The vial was pulled against my lips. The figure's composite face shimmered, its eyes burning with a desperate longing. The voices of the hikers swelled, a chorus of promises and threats that drowned out my own thoughts. I knew what I was doing. I knew the cost. But the weight of their memories, the pull of the symphony, the hum in my blood, it was too much to resist. I tilted the vial back and drank. The liquid tasted like ozone and rust, like the echo of a scream. My vision dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. The voices intensified, merging into a single, all-encompassing consciousness. Then, silence. The transformation. My body began to change. My bones elongated, my joints twisted, my skin shimmered with the same metallic residue as the film. I felt my memories dissolving, replaced by fragments of the hikers' lives. Igor's ambition, Zena's fear, Lyudmila's unwavering faith. I was becoming part of the mountain, part of the symphony, the revelation. As my consciousness merged with the collective, I understood the truth. The symphony wasn't just a signal, it was a beacon. The resonators weren't just plasma entities, they were instruments in a cosmic orchestra. The Dyatlov Pass wasn't just a place, it was a tuning fork. The figure wasn't waiting for me, it was waiting for them. The arrival, the sky tore open. Not a literal tear, but a distortion of space and time. The aurora intensified, bathing the mountain in an unearthly light. Then they came. Shapes beyond human comprehension. Entities of pure energy that dwarfed the mountain itself. They descended toward the circle, drawn by the symphony's song. The figure extended its hand, welcoming them. I was part of it now, part of the signal, part of the mountain. And as the entities enveloped us, I understood our purpose: to invite them to Earth. Epilogue: the symphony continues. 6 months later. The Dyatlov Pass is now a restricted zone. The official explanation: a geological anomaly. But the whispers persist. Hikers report hearing music on the wind, seeing lights in the sky, feeling a pull toward the circle. And the recordings. They're still out there. This tape, the film, the KGB files, each one a note in the symphony, each one a beacon for something that's listening, waiting, hoping someone will hear the music and come home. If this story crawled under your skin, smash that like button. The algorithm hates what we're uncovering here. Subscribe if you dare, because next week we dive into the Vatican's secret tapes and what they recorded speaking through a 7-year-old girl in 1987. And remember, some frequencies should never be heard.